Hey everybody. So in one of my previous videos, we talked about what happens when you have too much NAD because it can actually backfire on you. But today we're going to flip the coin and talk about what happens if you don't have enough NAD. Well, there's a sneaky, very, very cheap way that I can often tell from your labs without running fancy, really super expensive tests, right? So just by looking at your uric acid level, I can tell you if you're NAD deficient. So if it's low, if your uric acid level is low, your body might be running out of the spark it needs to turn fuel into energy. And I'll explain why NAD replacement can be a game changer when this happens. So you're watching the Mitochondria Code, where we decode your cellular energy and longevity so that you can take control of your health. All right, so let's think of your body as a hydrocarbon combusting machine. And this will help explain why NAD is so useful. So you take in fuel, right? You take in carbs, fats, proteins. What happens to them? And inside your cells, that fuel gets burned in a controlled way to create energy. That's the whole process, right? Your mitochondria, they are like little batteries and they need that fuel. They need glucose and they need fatty acids that burn it and it creates energy. It's amazing. So they burn fuel into something that we call ATP, and that's the energy currency that your body uses for everything. Okay, absolutely everything. But just like a car engine, you can't burn fuel without a spark. This in your cells, the NAD is that spark, right? So without enough NAD, your engine sputters, and even if the tank is full. So NAD, which is nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, tough phrase there. So, but it's in every single cell. It's the cofactor for your mitochondria and it uses it to strip electrons from the fuel and run them through this energy production chain. That's the electron transport chain. So it's used in over 500 enzymatic reactions from making ATP to repairing DNA. So really important, right? And when your NAD is low, your whole energy grinds down to like a halt, and you'll feel fatigue and you feel brain fog. You'll have poor recovery from exercise, maybe even rapid aging. Now, just to preface this with a lot of things can do this, right? It's not just NAD, but NAD is a big one, and it's everybody's talking about it, so that's why we're talking about it. So we use, how does uric acid fit into all of this, right? Like, isn't uric acid for gout? Because yes, that's the only reason anybody else checks uric acid is because it's if they're looking for gout. If you come in with a big red beefy toe, high uric acid, diagnosis is gout all day long. Why uric acid? Okay, so uric acid is the end product of purine metabolism. Purines are building blocks in DNA and RNA, and they're also part of the NAD molecule. So when your NAD turnover is high, meaning you're burning through NAD faster than you're making it, you break down more nicotinamide into methylated forms and ultimately produce uric acid. If your uric acid is very low, it can be a sign that your NAD pool is depleted. So your methylation cycle is sluggish or both. Low uric acid isn't always about diet. In the context of fatigue or POT syndrome or long COVID or chronic illness, it's a red flag that your mitochondrial spark plugs are wearing out. So that's why we use uric acid. It's cheap, it's easy. Is it perfect? It's not a perfect. It's very, very difficult to measure NAD. You can't just get NAD levels because there's NAD intracellular, extracellular, and the ratios or the numbers are way different. So sometimes you want NAD to be 7, sometimes you want it to be 700. There's a huge, huge range. So uric acid serves as a really great proxy. It's super inexpensive and it gives us a good snapshot that it's a reliable snapshot that we can work off of. All right, so how would you feel if your NAD is low? Well, fatigue, no matter how much you rest, exercise intolerance, brain fog, poor stress recovery, and low resilience to illness. So it's like trying to drive uphill with an engine that keeps misfiring. And so many people have these symptoms that it's kind of like, well, when you hear influencers talk about NAD and you're like, it made all the difference for them. And everybody has these symptoms. You would think that NAD would be good for you, but you really need to get tested to find out what your uric acid levels are and to take it step by step to see if this is actually what you really need. So when we see low uric acid and the symptoms match, NAD replacement can make a huge difference. Those are the type of people that come in and they think I'm amazing because I gave them an NAD infusion and they're like, wow, that's exactly what I needed. Whereas, some other people that, are requesting an NAD that just be like, oh, it was kind of it's a tough it's a tough infusion to take, right? Because it causes some transient symptoms and you can get some chest tightness and wooziness and dizziness. And they don't feel amazing afterwards because they didn't actually need NAD. But if you're that person that needs it, oh my gosh, whoever gives you NAD, you're going to think that they're the most amazing person ever. So you can replace NAD directly, IV, injections, or the oral precursors. So the oral precursors are NMN and NR, and the precursor to those is just plain old vitamin B3, niacin, right? Niacin's cheap as dirt. So, everybody that's paying like hundreds and thousands of dollars for NAD replacements, it's crazy. Just take some B3, it'll cost you $5 for a month or something like that. It's super cheap. But anyway, you can rebuild it by supporting the salvage pathways with niacin, methyl donors, and mitochondrial nutrients. The other reason that I push people to do niacin instead of NAD direct replacement is because if you don't need extra NAD, niacin has like a million functions in the body, right? So if you need NAD, niacin will support NAD. But if you don't need NAD, then niacin has other things that it can do. Whereas if you take NMN or NR, they're further down the pathway and they're only making NAD. So it's kind of forcing the body to work for something it doesn't actually even need. So I like to not micromanage the body. I just give it the precursors that it needs to do what it wants, right? It's like, all right, here's the supplies, you go do what you need to do, as opposed to trying to micromanage the project manager. If the project manager is competent and they know what they're doing, you don't need to micromanage. You just need to give them whatever resources they ask for. All right, so now more NAD isn't always better, right? If you flood the system with NAD, then if your repair systems aren't ready for it, you can cause new problems, right? That's why I always pair NAD replacements with membrane repair, antioxidant support, and methylation support. Because you're not just replacing the spark, you need to make sure that the engine parts are ready for it. So I've had patients with long-term post-viral fatigue who were barely able to get through the day. They had low uric acid. When I say low uric acid, I mean under 4. You want uric acid to be between 5 and 6. That is like your sweet spot. Anything less than 4 is highly associated, not with just these symptoms, but with every neurodegenerative disease that's out there is associated with low uric acid. So there's a lot running there. So low uric acid told me they were running on empty at the mitochondria level, okay? And after replacing NAD and supporting their repair pathways, the energy comes back. The brain fog starts to clear. The resilience starts to improve. It's not overnight, but it's the turning point, right? So here's the takeaway. If you're dealing with unexplained fatigue and your uric acid is low, it's worth asking if your NAD tank is empty, because fuel matters and so does the spark. So in the next episode, I will show you how to know if your mitochondria are burning fuel cleanly or if they're making too much exhaust, which is also known as oxidative stress. So I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video and talk to you soon.